It's a recording on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, so we are live on YouTube as well.
Okay.
Now we can start.
We'll start now. Okay. Okay, Gaurav.
Yeah.
On behalf of Vichar Ved,
Yes.
I,
Sure, sir.
Ashok Rajwade, speaking from Mumbai, welcome you all to this unique and exciting dialogue with the residents of Gaza. I'm a retired electrical engineer and have been in Mumbai, the financial capital of India. And for one more activity,
We are live on YouTube as well.
for one more activity, Mumbai is known, as you know, that is the Bollywood.
Okay.
What exactly is meant by Vichar Ved? Vichar Ved means it is exploration. The Vichar Ved means quest or inquiry of thought. It was launched in 1993 by progressive thought leaders in the state of Maharashtra, which is a major state in the western part of India. These leaders believe in secular and democratic values with a humanitarian approach. Vichar Ved, however, stopped its activities after 15 years of work. But again, it was revitalized in 2016. Thereafter, it has conducted 4 annual conferences, produced about 370 videos, and garnered about 22,000 subscribers. Initially, its work has been mainly in Marathi, a major language in Western India. About 83 million people, million Indians speak this language. However, we have made a few videos in Hindi also nowadays, and Hindi is the most widely spoken language of India. Beginning with Gaza, we are trying to arrange dialogues with citizens in various countries. In this particular conference, Mahnur Yar Khan, who is based in Hyderabad in India, has played a vital role in making this dialogue possible. Today, she will also present to us her life and experiences living when she was in Gaza, highlighting what it is for people of Gaza to live under a brutal occupation. I can tell so many things about Mahnur, but I'll be very brief in that. Mahnur has been active for 35 years, wherein she has worked in film, drama, as an activist, social worker, researcher, and writer. Her main area of interest is working with people in areas of conflict. As a drama therapist, she has spent over 20 years in the occupied Palestinian territories, most of which were spent in Gaza. She has also worked in Lebanon, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka. Then our friends from Gaza, one by one I'll tell something about them. Othman has a bachelor degree in business administration from Al-Azhar University in Gaza. He has been involved in field research and project coordination with a number of Palestinian organizations. Othman is very active in the BDS movement and has boycotted all Israeli products since 2008, as well as all international companies that are complicit in violations of Palestinian rights. Othman has always been driven by his sense of leadership and determination. He has a positive influence in his community, and many youth consider him a great model. Shauk graduated from University of Alberta with a Bachelor of Commerce in HR Management. After graduating, Shauk worked for 2 years as a branch manager at a telecommunication company in Canada. Shauk is currently living in Gaza and planning to do her master's degree next year in international business and sustainability. Shauk aspires to work with an international non-profit organization that will allow her to use her skills to serve people in Gaza and across globe. One more friend, Obay. Obay has graduated from high school and is currently in his first year at McEwan University with a plan to major in business law. Obay is very passionate about soccer and has played in many soccer clubs and was in his high school team. Mazda Alaska. Mazda is the founding member of Cultural and Free Thought Association. Today, she holds the position of Assistant Director and Director Public Relations of four cultural creative spaces for children and youth that they run, as well as Women's Health Center. She has received the prestigious National Order of Merit with a Knight degree from the French government in appreciation of her efforts in civic and humanitarian work. Our friends, the structure of the meeting is such that our friends in Gaza will give a brief introduction about Palestine and its strategic importance and major events. Then they will be presenting their personal stories as Palestinians living there. During presentation, they will cover different topics, including the blockade and the movement restrictions, the economy, the health and education sectors, as well as daily life. They will also discuss the BDS movement as a form of global solidarity with Palestinian struggle for freedom and justice. So this is just a brief introduction. I request now Manur to request our friends to go ahead and speak.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being a part of this program. It's my pleasure to be a coordinator here. I don't deserve that position, but it has been given to me. I would like Manal, who hasn't been introduced because unfortunately we understood that she didn't want to be publicly introduced in the program, to say a few words about herself before we actually start. Manal Bashiti lives presently in the Gaza Strip, and she'll tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much, Ashok, Mahnur, and everyone participated in organizing this dialogue. I think it's very important. And for us as Palestinians, we are in a bad need that many people around the world hear our voices and know about Palestinian issue. My name is Manal Najjar. I have a master's degree in education. I worked for more than 20 years in Gaza Strip in local organizations and international organizations in many fields, mainly in a humanitarian field, community development, worked with women, children, youth, and I moved to Canada in 2013 and came back to Gaza in 2019. I'm glad to be with you today, and we'll talk more about our experiences and life here in Gaza and how it's different from place to other. Thank you.
The first speaker is Uthman, who will introduce a brief history of Palestine with a focus on the Gaza Strip. Uthman, over to you.
We'd like
Uthman, just a minute. Uthman will speak in Arabic, and there will be a translation by Shok.
We'd like to share some slides. I'm trying to share screen, but the host disabled this feature. I'm just wondering if Ashok will be able to enable it again for us to share.
I will try to let you share it. Just wait a second.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I was not aware that you were going to present. Otherwise, I would have. I don't seem to find the option to allow you to. I'll just make you a co-host.
Share screen.
Share.
Mm-hmm. Also, I will just do the introduction about Palestine, and then Othman and the rest will continue with their personal stories in Gaza and throughout, different events. So just a quick introduction. Palestine is located in the southwest of Asia. It overlooks both the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. And therefore it represents an excellent strategic and geographic location as it forms a link between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Palestine is bordered on the west by the Mediterranean Sea, in the east by Syria and Jordan, and in the north by Lebanon, and the south by Egypt. The area of Palestine is approximately 27,000 square kilometers, and there are about 13.5 million Palestinians living in Palestine and diaspora outside Palestine. So this part is very important for us because this is where, the origin of the conflict about Palestine and the Holy Land. It is well known that the Canaan Arabs were the first people that lived in Palestine during the 3rd millennium BC. Until the departure of the Hebrew tribes and their conquest of the cities in Palestine around the year 1000 BC and changing the capital from Orsalim to Orshalim, and that's where it was an Arabic language first spoken in the land of Palestine, and then they changed the language and the name of the cities to a Hebrew names. And then throughout the history, Palestine has been ruled by numerous groups, including the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, with the rise of Islam. And it fell under the Ottoman Empire. Then it was ruled by the British mandate when the war, when the first war ended. And this map shows Palestine in 1917 when British took control of Palestine, and the League of Nations issued a British mandate for Palestine, which gave Britain administrative control over the region. And further complicating the situation, in November 2nd, 1917, the British Secretary of State, Arthur Balfour, pledged British support for a Jewish national home in Palestine. And based on that, a lot of Jews around the world started migrating to Palestine, taking over different parts of the land. As you see in the second picture of the map, 1937, how, moving from all green area that is dominated by Arabs, and then the white area started being dominated by Jews coming from outside Palestine. And then in the third picture on 1947 and 1948, the Balfour Declaration, when it encouraged Jewish migration to Palestine, it kept, like the Zionist movement, it kept growing until, with the support of British government, until it occupied large parts of Palestine and declared establishment of the State of Israel on 1948, which we actually call al-Nakba, meaning catastrophe. A lot of this violent birth of Israel led to the displacement of around 700,000 Palestinians, complete destruction of most of their villages and towns and cities. Palestinians ended stateless, displaced either in Palestinian territories, as you see here in Gaza, that was under Egypt, or in West Bank, which was under Jordan, and the remaining white area fell under control of the Zionist state. And yeah, if you see the last picture, it's like even after all these years, Israel kept on doing illegal settlements in Palestine, taking more of the land, building settlements within West Bank and area, and as you see in the map. And this 2020 map shows how how much of the land that they're taking by force with illegal settlement and apartheid. And yeah. So because we're just gonna focus on Gaza Strip, we're all from Gaza. Just a short introduction about Gaza. It's currently self-governed by Palestinians. However, it is still under siege. That is, forced by Israel. Palestine, the territory of Gaza, is 41 kilometers long, and the area of Gaza Strip is around 365 square kilometers. The Gaza Strip is one of the most densely populated places in the world. The area is a home of over 2 million people. The majority of people in Gaza are refugees from since the 1948, which we call Nakba, meaning catastrophe, and they're spread out in around 8 camps in the Strip. Then I'll just gonna give, Manal will talk about her story throughout major events that happened in Palestine.
So I will speak briefly about when the first Intifada started. I was 17 years old, and before that, somehow it was kind of peaceful period where there was Israeli occupation inside Gaza. We can see soldiers everywhere. We know and heard many stories from our parents, grandparents about how some of their siblings were killed by Israeli in 1948, and many of my uncles were forced to leave Gaza, and they were not able even to come to visit back and see their parents. In 1987, when the first Intifada started, this came as a result of hitting a civilian car by Israeli military truck, caused for killing 4 Palestinian workers in Jabalia, 3 of them in Jabalia refugees, from Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza. And the situation is still people, because they know that this is still occupation, and Israelis stole the land and kick us from our home. There is a lot of uprising, and most of the children and youth start to throw stones at Israeli. It was kind of, let's say, not military actions from Palestinian side at that time. And more than 1,400 Palestinians were killed at the period between 1987 and till we reach Oslo agreement, where Palestinian and Israeli have peace negotiation, resulted in signing Oslo agreement that allowed for Palestine to take part of the land with Gaza and East Jerusalem. I was happy at that time that we will go for a peaceful period in our life. I remember very well my husband always warning me that I have not to be optimistic, because Israeli never respect their promises. And then I discovered he is right, because we spent since that time, since 1993, signing Oslo, till now, Israeli never give Palestinian what they signed and agreed on. They still keep even taking land, building and expanding settlement. They never give East Jerusalem. They never give the source of access for water. And they, the second Intifada started in 2005 because of that, because when Palestinians lost hope and found out that there is no hope to keep negotiation with Israeli and take nothing, and it started again by visiting from the Israeli leader called Sharon at that time, visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a very holy place for Palestinian and all Muslim in the world. He provoked the feelings of Palestinian in purpose, and the second intifada started again and resulted for killing more than 2,000 people. It was again very hard time for us to live. In 2008, the second, can you go with the slides? Okay, so can you show, yes, the two in 2008, this is the first big attack happened against Gaza, where Israel used F-16 planes and shelling everywhere and killing a lot of people. I remember the first day where more than 400 people killed at the same moment because they just shelled all Gaza Strip from the north to the south. And my house personally exposed to partial damages. There's a rocket fired close to my house, and I was lucky that me and my kids were not slept at house at that time. When I came to find out what happened to the house, I walked to my children's bedrooms, and I found a lot of pieces from shelling, and the glasses covered their beds. And I just think, what if we were slept at the house? What will happen to my children? And at that time, I just, at this moment, I think, no, nothing could help staying here in Gaza. Even if I have good job, if I have loved family, if I have nice house, but still, this is not a safe place, and I have to move with my kids to save them. So I made my decision to immigrate to Canada. It took from me 4 years till I succeed to landed at Canada in 2013. It wasn't easy trip to start to be immigrant, but I found good job there. Life in Canada is still very nice and safe, but I always feel homesick, and always my mind stay with my family in Gaza, where other war in 2014 happened and many Palestinians killed. And I decided to go back to Gaza as soon as I can. What happened now to us, we are separated as a family. So part of my family stay in Gaza, live in Canada, live there. And part of my family is living here. Shok and Ubay are my kids who are participated in this dialogue. This is just briefly to tell you a story about someone who live in Gaza. Every citizen who live in Gaza have a lot of stories to tell and a lot of pain to talk about it. But now I will leave it to Uthman, as he, as a young guy live in Gaza, to talk about his experience and how it means for him to be living in Gaza. Thank you.
Hi everyone. بداية بعتذر إنه هحكي بلغة غير مفهومة بالنسبة للأغلبية، بس شوق حتساعدني يعني في إيصال اللي هحكيه.
First, he just apologizes for not being able to speak in English, but I'll be here helping him with the translation.
أنا عثمان، مواليد سنة 90، وهي سنة يعني كانت بالتزامن أو تزامن ميلادي مع نهاية الانتفاضة الأولى وبداية مرحلة سميت مرحلة إحياء السلام بيننا وبين الإسرائيليين. والدي كان قد تحرر يعني في سنة 85 بعد أن قضى 16 عام في الأسر.
So Othman, he was born in 1990, and that was the time when the second intifada, or sorry, yeah, the first intifada ended. He, during that time as well, like during his early childhood, That period was also known for, you know, starting peace with Israel with the Oslo Accords and other agreements. During that time as well, his father, who was in Israeli prison for over 15 years, gained his freedom by that time. And yeah.
هذا المعاناة ما انتهتش يعني عند ال 85 مع تحرر والدي، لأنه تكرر اعتقاله على مدار 10 سنوات لاحقة. تكرر الاعتقال عدة مرات طبعا، في أكثر من مرة يعني كان بعد ميلادي. طبعا أنا لا أعي جيدا لهذه المرحلة، ولكن الطبيعي والأكيد أنه يعني أنا وأسرتي لم نكن نعيش حياة طبيعية.
Okay. So even when his father gained his freedom after 15 years of, you know, being in prison, and then, you know, he got married, and then Othman was born. Othman says that his father always had to go back to prison every once in a while. So even though that he was out of jail after 15 years, but he still was taken to prison, every once in a while. And that I want to just show you a picture of the family here. If you see in the first picture, this is the childhood memories. This picture Osman always seen since he was a little kid. This is his grandmother, and this is all his uncles and aunts. This is his grandfather. And the picture here, this is his father, and this is his uncle who were in jail for 15 years. So this picture shows, you know, a typical Palestinian family life during the time before during the first Intifada, and, you know, and post first Intifada.
بعد ذلك قدمت السلطة الفلسطينية في سنة 94 بعد توقيع اتفاقية أوسلو بينه وبين الإسرائيليين. استقر نوعا ما الحال يعني على الأقل في أسرتي إلى عام 2000، وهو عام انطلاقة الانتفاضة الثانية أو انتفاضة الأقصى. وعادت الإقفال وبدأنا نشعر بالمعاناة اللي شعر بها الأجيال السابقة إلنا.
After that happened the second Intifada, and Othman started living, you know, same experiences of what he heard from his parents, his grandparents of the first Intifada. So it's just like events is happening again with a different generation. It was a big struggle for children of the second Intifada, as, you know, a lot of killing, a lot of conflicts, curfews, you know, not being able to go to school, not being able to have a normal life.
أنا أسكن في مدينة خان يونس، وهي مدينة في جنوب قطاع غزة، مساحتها لا تتجاوز 55 كيلومتر. قضيت غالبية حياتي في هذه المدينة. طبعاً في بداية الانتفاضة وخاصة في الثلاث السنوات الأولى لم نتمكن من الخروج من مدينة خان يونس بسبب أنه الاحتلال مع بداية الانتفاضة قام بتقسيم قطاع غزة إلى مدن وقطع الأوصال بين كل مدينة والأخرى.
So during that time of the second Intifada, the occupation divided even the Gaza Strip into different parts. Othman lives in Khan Yunis city, which is around 55 square kilometers. He was not able to leave the city. You know that the whole Gaza Strip is located on the Mediterranean Sea. Othman he wasn't able to even visit the sea at that time.
بعد انسحاب 2005 طبعا لو نريد الإطالة في الحديث عن الانتفاضة، حدث انسحاب 2005 أو ما تسمى خطة إعادة الانتشار في 2005. صراحة تفاجأت إنه المدينة اللي كنت أعيشها يعني كان أكثر أو ما يقارب نصفها كان محتل، وهو عبارة عن مستعمرات للإسرائيليين. و
So in 2005, Israel, the disengagement happened. So Israel left Gaza Strip. Osman, he remembers that he was surprised by the fact that his city, more than the half of his city, was occupied or under control of Israelis, and that you know, there is actually a sea in the city. As you see a picture here, when the disengagement happened, everyone went to the sea. The first day that this engagement, people, you know, were running to the sea to swim and have a good day, because they weren't allowed to do that over the past years since the second intifada and before.
بعد الانسحاب لم يتغير الأمر كثيرا علينا، لأنه قطاع غزة تحول إلى سجن كبير، حولت إسرائيل إلى سجن كبير يمنع الفلسطيني من الخروج منه أو الدخول إليه من أي أحد آخر، حتى حدثت انتخابات 2006 وزادت إسرائيل فرضت حصار شامل بري وبحري وجوي على قطاع غزة بسبب نتائج الانتخابات وبسبب فوز حركة حماس آنذاك، ازدادت حدة هذا الحصار بعد سيطرة حركة حماس على قطاع غزة بالقوة وطرد السلطة الفلسطينية منه.
So when the disengagement happened in 2005, even that people thought that, you know, life is gonna be back to normal again, and people in Gaza will finally be able to enjoy their life and, you know, visit different parts of the Gaza Strip normally and move freely and travel outside the Strip. But that actually did not happen because Israel left the land, but actually forced a blockade by air, by land, by the sea as well. So since 2006, when the political party called Hamas won the elections, Israel forced this siege or blockade on Gaza and made movement restrictions, a lot of movement restrictions. People living in Gaza are not able to travel to the other side of the world. They're not able to visit different parts of Palestine, you know, like West Bank or occupied Palestine. And as well as that, also they, after the blockade started, they had 3 major attacks on Gaza in 2008, in 2012, and the most difficult one was 2014.
حرب يعني حضرت في غزة يعني بعد الانتفاضة الكثير من الاعتداءات الإسرائيلية، كان منها 3 حروب مدمرة بمعنى الكلمة. يعني أولها كان حرب 2008 وآخرها وأشرسها كان حرب 2014 أو عدوان 2014 أو ما يسمى بمعركة الجرف الصامت كما أطلقت عليها إسرائيل. حصدت هذه الحرب أرواح أكثر من 2300 مواطن أو مدني فلسطيني، وأكثر من 11,000 إصابة، وحوالي تدمير 170,000 وحدة سكنية، وشرد 300,000 فلسطيني عن منازلهم في خلال هذا الحرب. وأنا في أرقام.
So basically the year after the blockade started, Othman had witnessed or lived through 3 major attacks on Gaza. They were a lot of destruction. A lot of people were killed, Palestinians were killed. He has some numbers here just to put you in the picture. So the main one was in 2014, and that more than 2,300 Palestinians, mostly civilians, were killed, and that includes over 550 children and 450 women, and more than 11,000 Palestinians were injured during that war. All of that, Othman was able to actually, after the war ended, Othman have no, now you should talk about your work. Sorry.
بس نحكي في هذا. في مقابل الأرقام اللي ذكرتها الخسائر عندنا الفلسطينيين، يعني كان في المقابل من الجانب الإسرائيلي طوال حرب 2014 أو 51 يوم، إسرائيل فقط قتل من عندها 4 مدنيين وعشرات الجنود، وأصيب العشرات.
Yeah, so it's just saying that in comparison to all the numbers that we just mentioned of Palestinians being that were killed, and the thousands were injured, and the hundreds of Palestinians were killed, only like tens of Israelis were injured, and or hundreds were injured and tens were killed. So it is basically, it's not a war between two equal parties. It is a major attack from a strong, well-armed army on civilians and people in Gaza that live under siege and have no weapons to defeat themselves. Or yeah.
في حرب 2014 يعني تكررت كثير من المشاهد التي كنا نسمع عنها ممكن في المسلسلات أو في القصص التاريخية عن حرب 48 وحرب 67 والهجرة واللجوء. أذكر مشهد أحد الليالي في الحرب كيف أن عشرات العائلات كانت توصلها سيارات الإسعاف تخليها من مناطق القصف إلى حينا كان آمن نوعا ما، وكيف أن المنازل التي تتسع ل10 أشخاص أصبحت تتسع للمئات.
So for the 2014 war, Othman, it was a major event in his life because he remembers very well seeing seeing scenes of from old historical movies about the 1948 catastrophe that happened. So it is basically, it was happening again in 2014 in front of his eyes when with the attacks, Israeli attacks, they forced people in Gaza to run away from their homes, and a lot of people was displaced. They're getting into ambulances and going to different parts of the city, running away from the killings. And he remembers that his house and many houses in the city that they fit around 10 people, but during that time they're able to fit hundreds of people. His house, personally, that his house actually they had over 300 or around 400 people in their house. So they opened their house, Othman and his family opened their house during the war to people from different parts of the city where the major attacks happened, and they opened their house to these people. They welcomed them, they hosted them for over a month or 2 months during the period of the war. And it just basically showing that many other houses and many other families also opened their house to these people that got displaced during that war in Gaza.
أنا حالياً عمري 30 عام. بالحديث عن فرص العمل والشباب، يعني تسنى لي فرصة العمل مع أحد المراكز الحقوقية بعد العدوان، وتسنت لي فرصة الاطلاع وتوثيق هذه الأحداث وهذه الانتهاكات عن قرب وجمع شهادات حية من الضحايا.
So after the 2014 war, Othman had the opportunity to work with one of the organizations in local organizations in Gaza as a field researcher, despite the fact that this is not his field of study. But talking about employment in Gaza, majority of people graduating, they actually don't work in their field. A lot of them, they don't even have jobs, but Othman was able to work in a different field. And he worked as a field researcher, and he was able to go on the field, report cases and document stories of people affected by the war. Yeah.
طوال 30 عام قضيت أغلبهم في قطاع غزة. تمكنت من السفر لمرة أو اثنتين إلى مصر. المرة الأخيرة كانت الصيف الفائت، بسبب أنني لم أتمكن من الذهاب إلى مدينة القدس لإجراء مقابلة في السفارة الأمريكية آنذاك، وقام الاحتلال بمنع من الخروج من قطاع غزة أو مغادرة قطاع غزة إلى القدس، فاضطررت إلى الذهاب إلى مصر لإجراء مقابلة السفارة الأمريكية.
Now Othman is 30-year-old. He lived his whole life in Gaza. He only traveled outside of Gaza like once or maybe like twice or three times. One of them was last year when he went to Cairo to have a meeting with the U.S. embassy in Cairo, because he was not allowed access, or he was not allowed the permission to go to the embassy in Jerusalem or the West Bank. The Israeli occupation refused his permission. And even though that it's considered the same country, so he was not able to, go from Gaza Strip to Jerusalem, which shouldn't take, how many hours would it take? 2 hours by car. The distance shouldn't take more than 2 hours, but he had to travel all the way to Cairo, cross the Rafah border, which is a whole different struggle, to have a meeting at the embassy.
بالحديث عن فرص العمل، طبعا الشباب في غزة يعني نادر ما يمكنهم الحصول على فرصة عمل كل عدة سنوات لمدة سنة أو عدة أشهر، تسمى بالبطالة. يعني أنه أنا شخصيا كنت ممن يرفضون الهجرة، وهاجر لي كثير من الأصدقاء خلال السنوات الفائتة، ولذلك حاولت أن أنشئ يعني مشروع خاص بي يمكنني من تحسين الظروف المعيشية والعيش في غزة، بسبب أنه ما في وظائف كافية. إلا أنه هذا المشروع لم يكتب له الحياة طويلا، بسبب أنه تزامن مشروعي مع فترات الحصار أو سنوات الحصار الطويلة، بالإضافة للعقوبات الاقتصادية التي فرضت في آنذاك على قطاع غزة بسبب المناكفات السياسية وبسبب الاحتلال.
So Othman, well, with the unemployment rate rising and the difficult life or the harsh living conditions in Gaza, especially for young people and youth, Othman was still against immigration, leaving Gaza. He loves Gaza. He loves, he has a lot of family and friends, and he was still thinking that it is important for him as a Palestinian to stay in Gaza and try to, find opportunities and build a good life here. So in 2000, and a lot of his friends, close friends, actually left Gaza. And it was not a normal immigration process. They actually risked their lives to leave the Gaza Strip. They went through the sea with, illegally crossing seas and countries, for example, going from Gaza through the sea to Alexandria in Egypt, then to Libya, then crossing the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, to Greece. And, it was a hard journey for a lot of his friends. But Othman was still believed in staying in Gaza and building a life for himself. So in 2017, he decided to have a fresh start. He opened his own business, which, as you see here in the picture, Al Fahd Taxi. It's just a taxi service in the Gaza Strip. However, due to the economic situation and with the blockade on Gaza and cutting off wages of people living in Gaza, that project failed, and Othman had to shut down his business. So,
الآن سأتطرق للآثار أو النتائج المترتبة على هذا الحصار وهذه الاعتداءات المتكررة الإسرائيلية علينا من بوابة الحديث عن معاناة والدتي في تلقي العلاج، حيث أن لست الوحيد في الأسرة الذي منعت من مغادرة قطاع غزة. والدتي كان لها الحظ الأكبر يعني في المنع، حيث منعت أكثر من 10 مرات من مغادرة قطاع غزة لتلقي العلاج لإجراء عملية، ولا يمكنها إجراء هذه العملية في غزة بسبب عدم توفر إمكانات طبية في قطاع غزة لإجراء مثل هذه العملية في اللي هو المفاصل. طبعا ترجمة بدل ما نفوتها في القطاع.
So not only Othman has had his hardships and difficulties, but also his family as well. One of them was his mother, who was refused more than 10 times to go outside Gaza, to travel to have an operation, like for medical treatment. She wasn't able to do her operation in Gaza because of the lack of proper equipment, medical equipment, and unqualified doctors being able to do the operation. So that was one example of his mother not being able to travel. Until today, actually, she's still in need to do this operation, and it's a very important operation in the knee. But she cannot travel because she's not allowed to. Basically, every time she applies, she gets denied.
القطاع الصحي في قطاع غزة على مدار سنوات الحصار وسنوات العدوان كان له حظ وفير في التضرر وفي الأضرار. بلغت نسبة عجز في الأدوية الضرورية في قطاع غزة تخطت نسبة 52%، وخاصة عند مرضى السرطان الذي لا يتوفر لهم علاج في قطاع غزة، وكانوا يضطرون للسفر إلى مناطق الضفة، والمئات منهم كان يتم رفض طلب سفرهم أو دخولهم لأراضي الضفة الغربية لتلقي العلاج.
So with talking about the health situation and permission for people to get treatment outside of Gaza, to travel and get treatment, medical treatment, it is very hard for a lot of people, not only his mother, but most of Palestinians in Gaza who are sick. They have cancer. They're in need for major operations and major treatment. Surgeries. There were a lot of them. They refused to. They're denied to get out of Gaza to get treated. Because of the blockade and with all the 3 attacks, the health sector is basically collapsed in Gaza. There shortage in medical equipment, with the electricity as well. With the electricity problem, hospitals are not operating efficiently, and and also for medications, we have shortage in medication, major medications and important medications. We have shortage in medication because Israel does not allow all medications or drugs to enter Gaza.
ازدادت حدة الأزمة الصحية في قطاع غزة وفي قطاع الصحة تحديداً مع دخول أو انطلاقة مسيرات العودة السلمية في عام 2018، حيث أنه قتل فيها 251 فلسطيني وأصيب الآلاف، وهو ما استنفذ مخزون وزارة الصحة ومخزون المستشفيات خلال فترة أقل من سنة، وكشف مدى ضعف القطاع الصحي في غزة بسبب سنوات الحصار الطويلة.
So the health sector even collapsed even more with the Great March of Return in 2018, and it's basically a peaceful protest of Palestinians on the border, calling for their right to return, or just actually basic human rights. During these protests, even though it was peaceful, Palestinians were just peaceful protesting. They were faced by tear gas, snipers, shotguns, and that increased the number of injured people in Gaza Strip, and a lot of people, became mobilized during this protests, and these protests actually used a lot of the saved or stored drugs and medications, and now with the COVID-19 and the Great March of Return, after the Great March of Return with the COVID-19, the health sector is totally collapsed. It's not efficient to face COVID-19 or any other medical needs.
في الوقت الحالي مع دخول أزمة كورونا العالمية على مستوى العالم، لغزة وضعها الخاص كان تحديداً، حيث أنها باتت تعاني من أزمات مركبة: أزمة حصار، أزمة اعتداءات عسكرية متكررة، أزمة كورونا العالمية واحتياجاتها ومتطلبات مواجهتها في ظل النقصان الحاد في الأدوية والمستلزمات الطبية في قطاع غزة، وهو ما كان يستغل الاحتلال. يعني طوال فترة الحصار كان الاحتلال يستغل حاجة المواطن الغزي في غزة للعلاج وللاحتياجات الأساسية والضرورية من أجل إخضاع سكان قطاع غزة.
So just basically with the blockade and Israelis attacks, not only the health sector that was collapsed, but a lot of sectors, the economic sector, the education sector, all other sectors they're almost collapsed because Israel keeps their pressure on the Gaza Strip, and their attacks as well. Every once in a while there is a rocket there here or there, and their pressure on the current government as well, a pressure on the Egyptian government to close the borders, and them closing the other border from the other side that goes to the we'll just let Obay talk a little bit, or actually
شكرا على الاستماع واسفين على الإطالة في الحديث.
Othman says thank you for listening, even though that it's a different language, and he apologizes that it took a longer time for the translation and then everything happened. I will just briefly talk about the movement restrictions and the Rafah crossing. So basically, as you see here in the map, Gaza has 4 crossings that you can get in or out of Gaza. Basically, it's the Rafah border, and the other one here is Erez, and the other 2, they're just for
goods and services.
Yes. For the Erez part, the one that goes to occupied Palestine, almost like only few people are allowed to go. So majority of people are denied permission to go, and the people that are allowed to go, they're in need for medical treatment. And even if you're, a youth or a guy or a young woman, you're not allowed to go, even if you need medical treatment. Only for older people that are allowed to leave through Erez. The Rafah crossing border is the main struggle for us. It's the only way to get out of Gaza. It only opens sometimes once every month. Sometimes it stays closed for like 6 months. I'll just talk about my personal experience with that border. When I left to Canada in 2013, and I was studying there, doing my bachelor degree, and I wasn't able to come back to Gaza just for a visit because of the risk of not being able to leave Gaza. All my friends, they're students there. Every Christmas and every summer, they just book their tickets and they go visit their family, in Europe, in China, all around the world. And for me, I wasn't able to do so because it's not just, you book your ticket and you go visit your family and you come back. It's a whole bunch of like insecurities, not being able to know if you can get in, when you're going to be able to leave. My best friend, she's from Gaza. She was studying with me at university there. She actually came to visit during that period. She came to visit Gaza, and she was stuck here for 3 months, and she had to withdraw from a semester in college. And because of that, I didn't want to risk it. So I stayed outside Gaza. I didn't come back for 7 years. When this summer I came back and to visit, it wasn't an easy journey. It took me a month and a half to, almost a month actually to get into Gaza, which shouldn't take more than 24 hours if you want to just like book your flight, come to Cairo, and then drive to the border. But I had to stay in Cairo for 3 weeks because I was waiting for the border to open. There are no a specific party or official party that announced the border opening. It's just, it's uncertain when it's gonna open. So I stayed in Egypt. And then when they announced the opening of the border, it took me 5 days. It was a 5-day trip from Cairo in Egypt to the border, Rafah border, or Rafah crossing. And basically I stayed 4 days or 5 days on the road. There was no access to clean washrooms. There are no hotels, no clean places to stay in. You're just sitting in the car. These are pictures just, showcasing people trying to leave Gaza here and people coming back to Gaza. This is actually my picture. This is when I came back. I remember this day very well because all these cars and more were sitting there from 6 in the morning till 7 p.m. Not a single car moved an inch. On one checkpoint, we stayed there for over 13 hours. There is no one explaining why. And if one of the drivers tried to, do anything, all we hear is shotgun at them from, unfortunately, the Egyptian military, the Egyptian army. So that was the, movement restrictions. I will just give it to Ubay to talk a little bit about himself and his experience with Gaza.
Excuse me, you know what I'm going to do, Ubay, for you? I'm going to have the audience ask you questions about your life.
Okay, sounds good.
So that they can come directly to you. So if we can maybe shut the screen down so that I can see the others.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Okay. Yep. And what I'd like you all to do is, Ubay is 18 years old. He's lived in Canada for a while, and now he's back in Gaza with his mother and not with his father. And he's studying in Canada. His first year of university is to directly ask Ubay questions, and then we can go to the rest of the panelists. So who would like to, whoever would, if you can unmute yourselves and ask Ubay questions. Is there anyone?
Yeah, one question I would like to ask him is that at some point there were settlements in Gaza. After that, I think 2005, is it? What time the settlements were gone from this thing?
2005, yeah.
2005. So once the settlements were there, I think people from Gaza were employed in those part of it, this thing, settlements. But what was the employment situation once the settlements had gone? Was there any change?
Ashok, if we can start asking Ubay questions relevant to him and his experience first, and then maybe we can go to your settlement question and employment to one of the older members of the group. Okay, so if there's anyone in the audience who would, yes, Chirag?
Hi.
I'll come back to you, Ashok.
Thanks, Manu, and thanks to all the Gazans out here for telling us their stories. It's incredibly moving. So you must have studied your school in Gaza, I take it. It was only university that you went to Canada, right?
It was.
So you did your schooling in Gaza.
Yeah.
So especially when all these attacks happened, what was the situation like in terms of school? How long did it get disrupted? Because they also bombed some schools in 2014, is what I know, and they were run by the UN, at least some of them. So what was that like for you?
So actually, I didn't go to a public school. I went to a private school for elementary. And in 2008, it got destroyed. So instead of going to a school with classrooms, I had to study elementary in a building with apartments.
Just to inform Chirag that Ubay left for Canada and continued his schooling there.
Oh.
And then joined university. So Ubay, are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Subhash.
What is the feeling of, you studied in Canada? What do the Canadians feel about the Palestinian experience? The whole movement which is going on there for the last 70 plus years. So,
what do the Canadians feel about me studying there?
No. The Palestinian, quote unquote, Palestinian question, the Palestinian liberation question. What is the opinion of your the students you are studying with you, who are not Palestinian, or Canadians, or maybe some other people, other nationalities? What is their understanding of? Are they sympathetic to the Palestinian question, or they are?
A lot of them actually didn't know Palestine even existed. They knew it as Israel. And that's how the media portrays this area. It just calls it Israel, especially in the Canadian news and American news. So they don't really say Palestine. And I didn't really blame them for not knowing. But as much as I could, I tried to explain them that this is Palestine and it's currently occupied by the Jews and they call it Israel and so on.
I'd like to ask a question, Ubay. How did you feel about having to leave at that point? How old were you then?
I was 11.
And at 11 years old, having to leave Gaza, what was that like for you?
For me, at the very beginning, I was very, very upset. And like, especially my personality, it's really hard to get along with new people. So the first couple months in Canada, I struggled. I didn't speak to anyone, especially like in school, I would sit all alone. But slowly, I started to adapt to the different cultures, to the different people I met. And, you know, as time passed, I started missing back home, but at the same time, I started building new relationships in Canada. I started building a new home in Canada.
What? Is there somebody else who would like to ask a question? Yes, Gaurav.
Hi, Ubay. It's really nice to have you all here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about the visa process. How hard was it for you to get the Canadian visa? And how did you apply from your home, or did you did someone help you with the process? How was your experience?
I would, Gaurav, put that question to Manal, because as a parent, they left with the kids and Ubay was 11 years old. So maybe Manal can answer that question.
Yes. So as I mentioned when I talked, I made a decision to immigrate to Canada and go through legal immigration after the war in 2008. This decision was made from my side just to save my family. I want to move my family to a safe place. So I applied as a skilled worker to Canada, legal immigration I made, and I got it. It was a long process for like almost 4 years, but I was the main applier, and I managed to have visa for myself and for all my family members. So it wasn't hard, but the process was so long.
Thank you. I'm really glad you got this.
Are there any other questions? Ashok, I'm going to put your question then.
Yeah.
Yes, about the settlements and work is which you were talking about.
Yeah, and secondly, as a young person, what is the job situation in the Gaza Strip? What kind of jobs do people get? And what is the rate of employment, unemployment, and all that situation?
Okay, I'll treat those as two different questions. So the first question I would like to put to Majda. Majda, if you could unmute yourself and answer that, please.
Hello, everyone. I want to say something before I answer the question, is that I'm very happy to have people from India being interested in Palestine again. And I say again because I feel over the years we lost this kind of solidarity and interest from the Indians towards the Palestinians. We always had people from India at a very large scale who are supportive of the Palestinians, and then this feel of support has been fading away over the past decade, if I may put it like this. So I'm glad that we are having people who are interested in Palestine again, and people who want to know about the situation in Palestine and Gaza in particular. For the unemployment rate in Gaza today, the last statistics are saying around 48%. But among youth, it's more than 67%. With COVID situation, I'm sure it's much more. We don't have a recent statistics about this, but the beginning of the year, it was, or let's say 6 months ago, it was 67% among youth. And youth, of course, they are forming 2/3 of the population of Gaza, because we are a young population.
I would then pose a second question to Ubay. Ubay, what Ashok was asking is what kind of, not Ubay, Ubay is to Uthman. Ashok was asking what kind of jobs are young people taking up nowadays and what is available, or rather not available.
شنو الوظائف المتاحة حاليا في غزة بيشتغلوها الشباب؟
يعني أنا وأبناء جيلي تقريبا من أكثر المتضررين من أحداث قطاع غزة بشكل عام، سواء الأحداث الداخلية اللي جرت بين السلطة وحركة حماس أو جراء اللي هو الحصار الإسرائيلي والاعتداء. في يعني 2005 كانت آخر مرحلة توظيف، تقريبا 2005-2006 آخر مرحلة توظيف في الحكومة اللي هي الوظائف الحكومية. احنا كنا جديد بنخلص، يعني أنا وابناء جيلي خلصنا أو انهينا الدراسة الثانوية حديثا كنا، وبالتالي بسبب إنه السلطة كانت حماس مسيطرة على قطاع غزة والسلطة خرجت من قطاع غزة، فبالتالي حرمنا من فرصة الوظائف الحكومية. بعد ذلك تم اللي هو من خلال الحصار والتضييق الاقتصادي تقلصت فرص العمل لحد كبير. أكثر الوظائف، يعني إذا بنحكي في أنواع يعني أشكال الوظائف للشباب، يعني مع مؤسسات المجتمع المدني بنسبة قليلة، المؤسسات الدولية بنسبة أقل كمان. ما دون ذلك يعني في يعني عندنا مثلا في خان يونس يعني الأعمال الزراعية والأعمال التجارية بشكل أكبر من الوظائف.
Would you like to translate that, Shuk, please?
Yeah, so basically Othman's generation and the generations after were the generations that were most affected by the siege, the attacks as well. Considering the employment, the jobs available here in Gaza Strip were mainly with local organizations, but it's not a full-time employment, or it's not a long-term employment, just short-term employments for like 3 months, 6 months, maximum actually 6 months, or maybe a year. Most jobs are like just that for short terms. For government jobs, they're no longer available after the 2005 disengagement and, you know, Hamas winning the elections and taking control over Gaza. So there are no government jobs really available. In terms of other jobs in Gaza, there is some jobs in the agriculture sector and in trades, but that also is declining due to the economic situation. But yeah, a lot of people also, you know, I've noticed, me personally, I've noticed a lot of people, they have like a daily work, and they, you know, in like daily jobs, you know, driving a cab, and wherever you earn the day, in this day, you spend it to get food and other stuff for your family. So, or other jobs like, you know, you have some products and you make products and you sell it. Whatever you gain, you're just spending to get food, medications, and other necessities to the family. So most of the jobs are like that.
I just want to add to that. When I first went in 1994, people were poor, but there was no poverty, there was no hunger. And the difference now is you might have a house, but you have no money to feed yourself. And so you also see a lot of people begging in the streets, which you would never ever see in 94. So that's the change that has happened quite drastically over the last so many years. And it's been quite progressive, more and more kids, in fact, being sent out to collect metal that is iron rather than metal, iron from all the bombed out buildings, which they then sell. So they might earn a couple of shekels by going into these areas that are quite dangerous. Using the material, the bombed out material, to rebuild homes is also being used. And maybe, I can't see Manal, but maybe Majda can tell us a little bit more about that. Majda?
There is a question from Rika. There is a question from Rika in the chat.
I may like to know about what's the situation of drinking water.
I may like to know about, yeah.
Would you?
So, I think this is a very interesting, question because we didn't talk about when Sho mentioned the electricity. It's very important to mention that the power plantation for electricity was bombed in 2016 totally, and since then there is shortages of electricity, and therefore it affects and impacts the delivery of water to houses, farms, and to the people in general. Plus, the water is undrinkable water. It's very salty, very near to the sea. I just want to comment on what Athman said when he said in 2005, when there was a disengagement and everybody went to the sea. In fact, the sea is like 5 minutes away from the camp. But for years, people were not allowed to reach the sea. This is very important. Sorry, I'm jumping from one thing to the other, but the water is undrinkable, and therefore it's impacting the vegetables. Now, most of the agricultural production, Gaza Strip, is organic. The majority of it is organic. At the fence between the Israeli and Gaza, they are spraying. The Israelis are spraying every now and then some chemicals on the land, and they destroy what the farmers are growing. Another thing about vegetables and agricultural products is that farmers are putting all their energy and resources, even if it's very little, to grow potatoes or whatever seasonal vegetables. But when the time comes to sell this product, they sell it by free, and sometimes they just leave it. Like even farmers who are growing flowers, which is supposed to be exported to Europe, over this in December, around Christmas and around Valentine, you'll see that they are throwing it to the animals, because to the donkeys and animals to feed them with these flowers, because they can't export it. So this is the situation in general about agriculture, water, and electricity. I forgot the other question.
There's just a minute, Maisha. There's another addition to that as to what crops are harvested in agriculture and what about olive. So it's just an extension of what you were saying. What are the crops they grow?
Yeah.
So would you?
Lots of vegetables. Like spinach, like I don't know how to name vegetables in English, actually. I forgot most of it. But we have lots of oranges as much as we have olives here. And olives, we always call it's the petrol of Palestine. It's the blood of Palestine. It's the soul of Palestine. And it's very much connected to our identity. Unfortunately, before the settlers left Gaza, there were lots of orchards of oranges, which was totally destroyed, and they uprooted thousands, if not millions, of the trees in Gaza Strip. We used to go from Khan Yunis to Gaza, which is 30 kilometers by car, and on both sides you have trees of oranges, olives, and lots of farms. Today it's like a desert. And people are trying to regrow it again. But we are Mediterranean climate, so lots of things are grown up here. Like we have the sitafel, we have, Othman can tell you about the experiment of some young agriculturalists who are growing pineapple in Gaza, and the ananas, Osman. And they succeeded actually in that for the first time ever to grow it in Palestine.
You know, it was interesting because
there are lots of experiments in agriculture, and it's.
Before I go to Uthman, I want to talk about the papaya tree. So they don't have papaya in Gaza, and there's one Ghazawi farmer who had brought a papaya tree from Egypt. And he was growing it, and he said, but people here don't know this fruit, so they don't eat it. And I brought one home to plant in the garden of this friend. And the father, who was very into looking after his fruit trees, refused to look after my papaya tree because he didn't know what the fruit was, and he was more interested in the mango tree that I had got him than the papaya tree. Going to olives, Uthman, sorry.
But don't worry, Mahnur, it's in the market now. It's in the market everywhere, so don't worry. Everybody knows papaya now.
Okay, no going to olives in 2014, there's an area called Khoza or Abesan. I'm not sure which of the areas this was. But the farmer, the man who owned the land, he came requesting for a grant to buy chickens and to have a chicken shed, because he said all of his olive trees, really old olive trees, had been cut down. And we went to this land and I saw it was barren. And I didn't for a minute believe him at that time that there was no trace of this olive tree or olive orchard. 6 months later, there were little sprouts coming out from the roots, and his whole olive orchard had been totally destroyed. His whole economy had been totally destroyed. So that's what 2014, the invasion, that's what happened. I will go back to Uthman, who will talk about the question of agriculture and the experiments by young people in Gaza. Uthman, mumkin?
تمام. بداية بس بدي أذكر قطاع مهم في واحد مصادر الرزق في قطاع غزة لكثير من الناس، وهو الصيد البحري. وطبعا الصيادين بيعانوا كتير جدا من سياسات الاحتلال. طبعا احنا أمامنا شاطئ قطاع غزة طوله يعني بعض الأحيان أو في كثير من الأحيان يمنع الصيادين من دخول البحر للصيد، وإذا كان مسموح يعني يكون لي بضع كيلومترات قليلة يعني. ودائما ما يخضع موضوع المسافة دائما ما يخضع موضوع المسافة للمفاوضات بيننا وبين الإسرائيليين، ودائما يستعملوها ورقة ضغط لإخضاع المفاوض الفلسطيني أو الطرف الفلسطيني.
So, just a little bit before talking about agriculture, Othman was mentioning an important sector in Gaza, which a main source of income for a lot of people. It's fishing, and it's a big suffering for a lot of fishermen in Gaza because Israel does not allow them to enough area to fish in the sea. They're only allowed like around maybe 6 to 15 miles, maximum 15 miles, and that's only after like a lot of negotiations, and then it's always back and forth, and it's always decreasing the area and increasing it again up to 15 or maybe lower. But so yeah, fishermen suffer a lot in Gaza.
كل يوم رحلة الصيد بتكون هي عبارة عن رحلة موت بالنسبة لكل صياد.
So basically every day the trip to the sea to fish, it's a trip of it's very risky. It's because they might get killed, shot or getting arrested. So every day, imagine going to work to as a fisherman to go fish. And catch some fish to sell, but you're just worried the whole day while doing your job of getting killed, shot at, or injured, or getting arrested. So that's in terms of fishing and that sector. And then you want to talk about agriculture a little bit more.
بخصوص الوضع أو القطاع الزراعي بشكل عام، يعني القطاع الزراعي من أكثر القطاعات اللي نالت اهتمام الممولين في قطاع غزة، خاصة أنه بعد الاعتداءات والحروب اللي مرت على غزة كان في أضرار كبيرة في القطاع الزراعي، أراضي تم تجريفها، أشجار تم اقتلاعها بمساحات كبيرة، غير التجريف طبعا ضرب الأراضي الفارغة. عمدت إسرائيل دائما في كل تصعيد إلى ضرب الأراضي الزراعية. طبعا كل أرض يتم استهدافها بالصواريخ والقنابل بعد ذلك لا تصلح للاستعمال الزراعي، لا تصلح للزراعة. فبالتالي كان من يعني جزء كبير من إعادة الإعمار كان مخصص للقطاع الزراعي.
So the agriculture sector, a lot of funds and from different organizations, they targeted the agriculture and the agriculture sector because it was mostly affected by the attacks and the siege. A lot of when every attack, Israel purposely throw rockets on different lands in the strip, and with that it damages the land. It's no longer sufficient for planting, and yeah.
مع الوقت تقلصت المساحات الزراعية طبعا من خلال الممولين والمؤسسات الزراعية العاملة في قطاع غزة. تم استحداث عدة أنظمة زراعية في قطاع غزة، وكان هناك مواكبة باستمرار للتطور الزراعي في العالم، ومحاولات دائمة لنقل هذه التجارب إلى قطاع غزة، خاصة أنه القطاع الزراعي مهم للمواطن الفلسطيني في على الأقل يعني توفير السلة الغذائية والاستغناء عن الاستيراد من أو اضطرارنا للاستيراد من الاحتلال. تجربة الأناناس قام فيها اتحاد لجان العمل الزراعي. صديقي المقرب هو كان المشرف على هذا المشروع أو هذا البرنامج. طبعا يعني أدخلوا هذه التجربة لقطاع غزة وبنسبة ضئيلة كان متوقع نجاحها، خاصة أنه يعني الأناناس يحتاج لعناية ورعاية خاصة، درجات حرارة يعني معينة لا تقل أو لا تزيد، بالتالي كان يحتاج إلى مستلزمات زراعية مكلفة أيضا. إلى أنه نجحت التجربة. طبعا ناهيك عن أنه الأناناس يحتاج لمدة 2 لحتى يكتمل نضوج هذه الفاكهة. 2 كاملتين تحتاج لحتى تنضج. كانت تجربة ناجحة جدا، وتم بيع المحصول في قطاع غزة بنصف السعر تقريبا عن ثمن المستورد. طبعا لأنه كان الشيء مدعوم من قبل الممولين، إلى أنه ما استمر هذا البرنامج وهذا المشروع نظرا لارتفاع تكلفة زراعة الأناناس في قطاع غزة.
So this experiment with the pineapple, Othman knows it very well because his best friend actually was the supervisor on this experiment. He worked with the Union of Agriculture Work, and they received funding to try this experiment, and it was not easy because pineapple is, it requires a lot of care, accurate right temperature, and it took 2 years for the whole experiment to succeed. And when it succeeded, it was sold. The harvest was sold, and it was sold for half the price of what imported pineapples would have costed. But after that experiment, the funding was cut. They no longer received funding to continue with the pineapple experience. So now we're back again at importing pineapple and paying a lot of money to just, purchase a pineapple, right?
There's one more question that Ashok has in regard to construction of houses. He would like to know, is construction happening? Where's the material you're getting for that construction? And, what are you allowed to build where the houses have been bombed? How does that work? Is there anyone who...
I will try to answer this question, because since the war in 2014, Israeli prevented all construction materials to enter into Gaza, because they claim that these construction materials are used to build tunnels under the ground and attack Israeli. So, and this is even before 2014. It's early, maybe after 2009. But then with 2014 and having a huge number of houses damaged by Israeli attack and many institutions, there was negotiations through UN, and there was agreement to allow for entering construction materials, but under full supervision by UN staff. And Israeli as well has to approve. For example, if they want to enter amount of cement or metal or any kind of construction materials, there's a kind of a system established through under agreement between Palestinian Authority and Israeli Authority and the UN agency. All materials are exported, have to enter the system. Palestinian Authority have to approve it, and then Israeli Authority have to approve it, and then UN staff have to supervise these materials since they enter Gaza till they built at houses. So, and this costs a lot of money to hire staff to be able to monitor these materials when they enter till they are used for construction, even for reimbursing those houses that have been damaged during the war. So till now, still we have restrictions in entering construction material and infrastructure materials, and all these materials have to be exposed to very tight monitoring for all these materials to make sure that these materials, nothing of them will be used for other kind of purposes except civilian buildings.
Manal, I just want to add to the take from that question. Has there been any experimentation within the Strip on alternative materials for construction? Because I know a long time ago, they built that hotel out of mud bricks.
Okay.
So in that sense, has there been more experimenting when it comes to construction material in Gaza?
There's some creativity in having such kind of like replacing the traditional construction materials, like using the mud or using the wood or using the plastic. But it's not like you can't generalize that. Like very few people managed to do it, managed to build some houses using these materials, but it's not like very strong, because in winter, still you have to always do a lot of maintenance to make sure that you are protected in these houses. It's not easy to live in a house made of wood or mud in Gaza because of the winter, and it requires a lot of maintenance. It's not like you can't generalize that. You can't say that many people use this kind of alternative materials to build their houses. I don't know if I want to add something. بنحكي عن إذا الناس استخدمت مواد ثانية لتبني البيوت بدل المواد العادية، وإيش التجربة اللي صارت.
بدي أضيف هنا بس إنه في غزة في عقول وقدرات وإمكانيات ناس تعمل هذه المواد تصنعها هنا، ولكن إسرائيل تمنع دخول المعدات اللازمة لتصنيع هذه المواد. تمام، مش بس في مواد البناء، في اي مجال يعني انا باكد انه في عقول تستطيع انه تبني وتعمل هذه، يعني توفر هذه المواد من غزة نفسها، ولكن المشكلة في ادخال هذه المعدات. الشغلات البديلة او الطرق البديلة سواء في البناء او في اي مجال تاني، ممكن أكثر من حدا سمع إنه مثلا في غزة في يعني استخرجوا بترول أو مثلا سولار عملوه من النفايات، يعني كرروا النفايات واستخرجوا منها سولار، لكن في النهاية بكميات ضئيلة جدا، تكاد يعني بس يعني تكفي عشرات، لكن لا تكفي احتياج عام. بالنسبة للبناء بمواد غير مواد البناء الأساسية، تمكن بعض المواطنين يعني مثلا من بناء منزل بالخشب أو منزل بأكياس الرمل، تمام، ولكن هذا مواطن واحد يعني عملها وما بيقدر حدا تاني يعمله. شغلة تانية أو الشيء الثاني الأهم إنه يعني مش بديل مناسب عن مواد البناء الأساسية، تمام، فهو مش ليس بديل مناسب.
Sure. Would you like to translate that?
Yeah, it's just basically often saying that we do have people in Gaza that are capable of you know, if the raw materials and the right equipment were available, a lot of people in Gaza, they're able to use these materials and equipment and you know, build houses and make construction
materials.
Yeah, so but the problem is that even with having the capabilities in Gaza, Israel still forces, you know, Israel still denying the entrance of the right equipment. But he's just confirming what Manal said about people building houses from wood and rumel, sand. Yes. But to be honest, it's not efficient for everyone. It's just good enough for like a couple of people or few people in Gaza. It's not good enough for, you know, winter or other weather conditions, especially during winter.
في نفس السياق بس بدي أجاوب على السؤال، شفتوا إنه كيف بتتعايشوا أو كيف عاملين مع نقص الكهرباء. يعني خلال أزمة الكهرباء ممتدة، يعني حتى من قبل الحصار في 2006 وقبل الانسحاب، يعني كانت أزمة الكهرباء، يعني لا أذكر أنه في يوم لازم تقطع فيه الكهرباء لو ساعة. على مدار السنوات استطاع أكثر من شخص في غزة أو أكثر من مواطن أنه مثلا يبتكر طريقة لتوليد الكهرباء، سواء من عن طريق الهواء، عن طريق مجرى مياه، إلى آخره من الطرق الابتكارية. ولكن هذه الطرق زي ما حكيت أنه بتوفر الكهرباء كانت لبيت معين أو لبيتين، لعدد محدود جدا من المنازل. لكن حتى أنه نوفر كهرباء مثلا لعدد كبير من السكان أو لأحياء كبيرة، كان يعني يلزم طبعا معدات إسرائيل تمنع دخولها. فبالتالي كان البدائل إنه المولدات الكهربائية، المولدات الكهربائية اللي بتعمل على الوقود، هي كانت البدائل، ولحد الآن هي البديل يعني، أو أنسب بديل. بالإضافة أنسب بديل من ناحية السعر طبعا، بالإضافة اللي هو بديل الطاقة الشمسية، هو بديل جديد عندنا في قطاع غزة، ولكن مش كل مواطن بيقدر يتحمل تكلفة تركيب طاقة شمسية في بيته.
So the electricity, as far as answering the electricity question, one of the audience asked, we've always had problems with electricity. We've always been suffering, but lately with the blockade on Gaza, it's been worse. Currently, we receive around 8 hours of electricity, 8 hours on, 8 hours off. Alternatives, when there is no electricity, some people have tried the solar system, but it costs a lot. So not everyone is able to afford to have it installed at their houses. But another alternative that I've seen many people actually using is the USB. But I'm not sure if people are aware of what USB basically. Maybe Mercy can help me with this in terms of electricity and people using the USB and car batteries to get some electricity to you know to charge their phones, to like connect it to one light or two lights.
I think converters. UPS system.
UPS.
UPS system.
So we have a similar UPS system.
Brought from India.
Osman was saying it was actually like it was a guy from India that created, and he's a genius, to be honest. We had our house, so we have electricity the whole time now.
Osman,
thank you, India.
People still have USBs here, UPSs in India, even now. That's what they use when our electricity goes off.
Yeah.
Ashok is an engineer, so Ashok, you have some work to do.
Ashok's an engineer. I just want to go back on this whole business of electricity. In the earlier days of the blockade, through the tunnels, there was a lot of cheap kerosene and a lot of cheap petrol that would come in. So people had generators, and the minute the electricity went off, you'd hear these generators on. It was really noisy and it was really smelly, but you had electricity. It's after that when they bombed the tunnels and there was nothing coming in, and also people couldn't afford it, then it became even more difficult. So people started buying to keep warm, because winter it's really cold. One doesn't believe that Gaza can get cold, but it's winter in Gaza. And they have a little, you know, that we roast kebabs on? They put coal and you roast. So, well, they sit around that, these little coal fires, and they have to keep a door open so the draft comes through. And that's how you keep warm. And when you go to your room, you get into your bed because there's no coal fire in your bedroom. And you don't want it there anyway. So that still happens, I think, in a lot of homes. This business of coal fire, sitting in the winter.
Me personally, one of the things that I've missed during my life in Canada is this experience, you know, sitting around the fire with my cousins. I've missed this a lot, and
can't wait.
Yeah, and can't wait for the winter to do this again. So even with this cold weather, not being able to have, you know, internal system for heat, we have to like lit fire outside and sit around it. We still create, you know, a beautiful evening around the fire. We sing songs. Me and my cousins stay up all night around the fire singing songs and having, you know, drinking tea and chatting. So it's for me personally, I love the winter here in Gaza despite the cold weather.
Okay, unfortunately we have to end soon, and I'm going to ask the last question which was put up here is what gives you the strength? They've said, thank you for talking to us with such courage and openness. I'm moved to tears. May I ask you, what gives you the strength and hope? And they would like either a prayer, a song, or some old saying or thought. So what I'd like to do is, if each one of you, we have 4 of you here, can give us a thought, a song, a prayer, or something that you feel you would like to share about what gives you courage, strength, and hope. I'm going to start with Ubay. If you can Ubay.
Hi.
Did you hear my question?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so if you can give us either a prayer or a song or some thought or saying that gives you the courage and the strength.
1 second. No, go to the...
Ubay would like to share a video of a group of people.
So yeah, the video is just showing that despite all the despair that people go through during the war and the grief they carry after the war, despite not experiencing trauma and unsafety as a child, you know, its talents are still born in the midst of discouragement.
Okay.
Right now I'm going to show you a video of some parkour. So yeah, this was on the first day of the war. They were just normally practicing for parkour, and then they started bombing nearby them. So they started recording and doing parkour.
Okay. Just to let the audience know, parkour is a French, introduced by the French. It's sort of acrobatics that's quite dangerous. And they jump from building to building and up walls and yeah.
Okay, this one is about a guy named Ahmed Matar. He's part of, they put him on the Red Bull team. He tells us a story about how he started doing parkour. Let's hear him.
Ahmed Matar, 20 years old, from Gaza. When I started parkour, my family changed their mind about me, and they started to be proud of me because what I am doing is really difficult and dangerous. It makes me feel more happy that I make my family. The only thing that I think that it's in my life was parkour.
It's nice to see that these people still have hope, and after all these ruins and destruction that caused after the war.
Okay, thank you for that. That was lovely. I would like to go to Shuk.
Yeah, for me, what gives me hope here, it's just, you know, seeing people in Gaza with all the suffering, with all the demolition and attacks and the killing, the hard living conditions, people are still, from the simplest events, like simple event, like, you know, finishing high school or any regular event, they create a lot of happiness, a lot of farah, we call it. They spend a whole week celebrating when there's someone's wedding. I know in India as well, it's a similar tradition, but also in Gaza, we do the same. And, you know, these kind of things make me happy being here. I actually just got engaged like 2 weeks ago. Thank you. And just being here with my family and friends and people that are not really related to us, but they know us, they live in the same city, they're very happy for us. They share our occasion, our happy moments. It just made me feel safe. It made me feel home. And this is what I was missing in Canada, despite the fact that it's safe there. I have an education, I go to university, I have a full-time job, but I never felt the same feeling here in Gaza, you know. And this is what actually gave me strength and hope. I can't sing. I wish I could sing, but I won't be able to sing. But I'll let maybe Othman or my mom talk about that.
Okay, so now we have Othman.
السؤال إنه إيش
بخلي عندك أمل في غزة وإنك تضلك تحب؟
عندنا إشي يعني في ثقافتنا بنقولها دائما إنه دوام الحال من المحال، يعني وما في شغله، ما في شيء بضله على حاله يعني. هذا شغله يعني هذه يعني عباره ايمانيه، هي ايمان مطلق صار عندنا احنا كغزيين. وهذا اكثر شغله بتدينا انه احنا في يوم من الايام كانت بلادنا إلنا كانت كلها يعني تحت ايدنا، وحيجي يوم ثاني حترجع هذه البلد وحنكون إحنا لنا سلطتنا عليها ويزول هذا الاحتلال. طبعا اللي بخلينا نعيش الحياة اليومية هو باختصار الفيديوهين، مقطعين الفيديو اللي شفتوهم، إنه كيف الناس قديش بتحب الحياة. في مقولة مشهورة للشاعر محمود درويش إنه على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. تمام، هاي بتلخص إنه كيف احنا لوم الامل مش عايشين، يعني احنا عايشين بالامل. وهذا انا مش دائما باكد على حتى مع اصدقائي وبذكرهم فيها دائما انه احنا عايشين على الامل. لو بدنا نفقد الامل لا احنا متنا. فاحنا عايشين على الامل وحنضلنا عايشين على الامل انه بكره احلى وبكره احسن وبكره حريه.
So for Othman, he believes in, a saying that we have, if I want to translate it, it's basically nothing stays as it is. Like things change, right? So this land was ours all the land was ours. And then he believes that one day it will come back to us. We'll be able to, go visit all parts of Palestine that we weren't allowed to. Without hope, there is no meaning of life. There is a poetry by Mahmoud Darwish. He's a Palestinian poet, and it's a very famous one. It says, على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة, which basically we have on this earth what makes life worth living. And yeah, so as he also said, as the videos show, that's just a snippet of what life in Gaza, like, despite everything, the hope is what makes us keeps us going, and yeah.
Thank you. We now have Manal.
For me, it's easy. I am very obvious case for giving hope. I left Canada, which is one of the most happiest countries in the world, and come back to Gaza. And this is my choice. And everyone, many people in Canada and here in Gaza just keep asking me this question. Are you crazy? What are you doing? Are you crazy? How come you left Canada and come back to live in Gaza? But for me, no, Gaza is the most beautiful place and city in the world. Despite everything, I'm still feel more safe here in Gaza than even in other countries and in Canada, my second country, which I also love. I feel more beloved here. I like every single day and moments in life, even in difficult times where there is kind of clashes or wars. I can see the solidarity. I can see people around me. I can feel more safe and happy, and I'm still think that we as Palestinians really teach life for other nations across the world. Yes, it's true, we live very hard conditions, we struggle a lot, our case is unique, but still we are very strong. We will keep fighting till we get back our freedom and rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal. Our last on the panel is Majda, and Majda, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I want to introduce Misk, my niece, to you all because she came to join us. What gives me what makes me hope is Misk and her generation, because I was born in 1969. All my life, after 2 years after the occupation, all my life I lived without freedom. But I believe that I was hoping the generation of Shaw and Othman will live the freedom, but we didn't succeed in the first Intifada with our struggle. We are still experimenting, and hopefully when Misk becomes young girl, she will be free as a Palestinian.
That's a lovely ending, and I'm sure all of you will be free, inshallah. I'd like to thank the panelists for having spent so much time with us and to having put such an interesting program together. It's been our pleasure. I'd like to thank all those who came today and have spent over 2 hours with us to try and understand a little bit. I think it takes a lot more personal interaction to really understand what life is like living in Gaza. I've been there for a long time, and I still don't understand why people say we love Gaza and would want to live here, given a choice. But I think it's home to many Palestinians, and the home is always beautiful to have. I'd like to thank Ashok and Gaurav for having ensured that this goes smoothly, and Ashok for having taken a long time to put this together, and it's really wonderful. Thank you very much, Ashok. It's my pleasure to be a coordinator on this program. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, friends. See you again and again. I mean, that gives us more courage, to face.
Othman wants to say something really quick before we end this.
Yes.
طبعا انا بعتذر انه يعني شو حتضطر تترجم بس حاول اختصر قد ما اقدر. في نفس الجزئيه كنا نحكي فيها انه شو كمان بخلينا بدينا القوه وبخلينا نستمر، اللي هو اللقاء هذا تحديدا، هذا اللقاء وهذا التضامن وهذا الاهتمام من قبل العالم بقضيتنا وفينا. انا شخصيا مع معترك الحياة ومع ضغوطات الحياة شوية الواحد ببعد أو ممكن يصير نوع من الكره حتى لنفسه ولوطنه، ولكن مثل هذا اللقاء ومثل هيك الناس أشخاص برجعونا لأصلنا ولحبنا، وهذا اللي بنأكد عليه. طبعا هي فرصة انه اوصل لكم قديش انه هذا اللقاء كان مهم جدا لنا، وقديش بيعني لنا، وبالتالي قديش بيعني لنا كل ما زاد هذا التضامن. أنا من خلال تقديمي يعني عرفت أنا ناشط في حركة المقاطعة، وهذا نداءنا، يعني نداءنا يعني في النهاية نداءنا لكل العالم ولكم تحديدا الآن. أنا يعني من الناس اللي بحب جدا السينما الهندية وبتابعها دائما، وبحزنني جدا انه صرت اشوف في اغلب الاعمال السينمائيه علم اسرائيل، يعني وهذا الاشي جديد يعني صار. فانا من خلالكم يعني بدعو وبأمل انه يكون في نشاطات مع حركه المقاطعه BDS، تعزيز هذا وترجمة هذا التضامن وهذا الحب من طرفكم لنا، بأنه يكون لكم دور فعال في حركة مقاطعة إسرائيل وفرض العقوبات عليها وسحب الاستثمارات منها. شكرا جزيلا لكم، بعتذر من شوق ومنكم على الإطالة.
Just lastly, he's adding another point for, you know, what gives us hope. It's basically people like you, you know, investing their time, talking to us, listening to our stories, and getting to know Palestine. This is very important for us as Palestinians. You know, we gain our strength from people like you. And one last thing, he's calling for you people to join the BDS movement, which is a movement to boycott Israel's products or any other products that support the illegal settlements and apartheid in Palestine. This is a way for people around the world to show solidarity with Palestine. Thank you very much for this great dialogue, and we wish you all the best.
I just want to inform the Palestinian panelists that the BDS movement is in India too. And tomorrow and the day after, they have 2 programs, and I'll send you the details, again, which is on Palestine also. So do come in as an audience and maybe share your thoughts once the panel has spoken. It might be good, but I'll share those links with all of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. شكرا كثير، يعطيك العافية، وإن شاء الله نشوفكم.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Miss.
Bye.
Bye, Miss.
Bye.